It seems like every time I do one of these buying guides, it just sparks even more interest for more buying guides, so I figured since the last one we did was the PlayStation 4 buying guide, that today we do the Xbox One buying guide. Now, as always, I have all my notes over here just so I can make sure I'm being as thorough as possible and remembering everything that we need to talk about, so I don't want to waste my time, I don't want to waste your time. Let's just get right into the buying guide, yeah? Let's start out with the models of the Xbox One. So I have one of them on hand here. I actually have all of them in my house, it's just I'm not gonna run around my house unplugging all the different Xbox Ones. There's like 5 Xbox Ones in my house, it's insane. But anyway, here is the original fat model. This is actually my first Xbox One. This is the one that I got back in 2016 because I was a little late to the generation. I got mine on the same day that Infinite Warfare released, so I got this in Infinite Warfare, the Legacy Edition of the game, which was just freaking awesome. But anyways, there is the fat model, as you can see right here. I mean, look at this thing. This thing is, and keep in mind, I have a big head, and this thing is even bigger than my head, so this thing's massive. You got the Xbox One Fat, you got the Xbox One S, and you have the Xbox One X. The main difference between the Fat model and the Xbox One S is basically nothing. The Xbox One S does have support for HDR, which is high dynamic range in games, so you know, deeper blacks, brighter brights, etc. The Xbox One S also has a 4K Blu-ray player inside of it. Now, don't get that twisted, you're not going to be playing games in 4K, but for example, if you go to the store and say, oh, I don't know, Batman vs. Superman on one of those 4K Blu-rays, then you'll be able to watch it on the Xbox One S and actually get that full 4K, whereas on the original Xbox One, you cannot. And then the difference between the Fat and the One S compared to the One X is that the One X is a lot more powerful and is actually the model that I recommend. So the One X at the time of its release was actually the most powerful console, even more powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, due to, you know, optimization things behind the scenes, unfortunately, games still frame rate wise tended to run better on the PS4 Pro. However, they usually ended up looking better on the One X, even if they were slightly more unstable, but we're still talking about like a pretty solid lock 30 or bouncing between 50 to 60 in the games where there was frame rate inconsistency, so you'll be fine on the One X. And really the only reason for that is that the PlayStation 4 from the get-go just had a better CPU compared to the Xbox One, so even though the Xbox One X had a much better GPU inside of it and could handle more graphically intensive things, the PlayStation 4 Pro still just had a better CPU just because, you know, the PlayStation 4 itself had a better CPU, so that's just kind of what it is. But I would still recommend the One X just because you're not going to be paying much more than what you would pay for, say, like a Fat model or One S compared to the One X. Sure, you'll be paying a bit more, but I feel like that the extra cost investment is definitely worth it considering what you'll be getting, and that is much better performance in a lot of games, much higher resolutions. In some games, like for example, Rise of the Tomb Raider, you're even going to be getting performance versus resolution options like you would see in the current generation, and then you look at some games like some of the later Call of Duties that were specifically One X enhanced, and you can always know, on like the case of a game, for example, it'll say One X enhanced on it, so you know if that game actually has Xbox One X enhancements. That being said, you're not missing out too much if you just go with a One S or an original Xbox One. You know, you'll get by just fine with one of these. I only just got a One X like a few years ago because my original Xbox One ended up crapping out, so, you know, that I mean, the One X, even here in 2025, it's running great, it looks great, you can't go wrong with it. It's a great console. And then in terms of the storage options, you're mainly going to be seeing 500GB and 1TB models. There is some 2TB models out there, but for the most part, you're going to be seeing the 500 and 1TB. As always, I'd recommend going for the middle ground. 1TB is just a healthy medium, 500 gigs, that's laughable, and 2TB, you don't necessarily need all of that off rip, and it can lead to the console being more expensive than what you should probably be paying for it, so I would recommend getting a 1TB, and then down the line, getting an external SSD or hard disk drive. You don't really need to go the SSD route, though a lot of people just end up doing it, just then they can have their games load faster, but really, you'll be just fine with a hard drive. I turn all of my consoles into monsters. My Xbox One X is like freaking, like, it's like 1TB in it, and then I hooked up like a 2 or 3TB hard drive to it. I have like hundreds of games installed on it. Same thing on my PS5. Got the 1TB inside of it, and then there's like a freaking like 2-3TB thing hooked up to it. Got like 200 plus games on there. It's insane. I love it. But anyway, now we'll go ahead and talk about controllers. So it's a bit interesting. It's different compared to PlayStation. So this is the Xbox One controller. There is Series X controllers around, but unfortunately I don't have a Series X controller at the moment because mine bit the dust, so I'm just, you know, stuck with a third-party one, which, you know, I'll show you the third-party one at least, so we can at least kind of talk about the differences between the Xbox One and Series X controller. This is the controller I've been using just because at the time that I got it, there was a lot of bills and stuff, so I didn't necessarily have the money to shell out for like a freaking like $60 controller, so I just picked up like a $20 controller. But anyway, so again, Xbox One versus Series X controller, and the difference right off the rip may not seem obvious, but it's literally just this one little button right here. You click, it's the share button, you know, you click it to screenshot, you hold it to record a video. You can play Xbox One games with either an Xbox One or Series X controller, and likewise, if you decide to get a Series X or S, you can buy a Or you can play the games with the Series X or Xbox One controller. I'm sorry, it's like so confusing going back and forth between the two. But yeah, they're basically the exact same thing minus the share button. It's also worth noting that the triggers are a little bit, there's less travel on the Series X version of the controller, and it's not just this controller that it's like that. It's like, you know, on the normal Series X controllers as well. The triggers are just a bit more compact, and overall the controller just feels a bit more premium in my opinion. Now let's go ahead and talk about the accessories, the Kinect. Let's go ahead and talk about online play. So, okay, you know, okay, we'll talk about the Kinect for a minute. The Kinect is useless for the Xbox One. If you want a Kinect, you know, go get an Xbox 360. You know, not to revive that old meme of, oh, well, for the users that don't have internet, so they can go buy Xbox 360. Oh, Don Matrick. What a man, what a man. But anyway, yeah, so, you know, I mean, if you want to get it to have voice commands like, hey, Cortana, launch Gears 5, then you can do that. Now let's go ahead and talk about online play. So you have a few different options. You got Game Pass Standard for $14.99 per month, Game Pass Ultimate for $19.99 per month, and then you also got Game Pass Core, which is like $11.99 per month, and then you can also get that one for $74.99 per year, which is what I'd recommend doing. It used to only be $60, but of course everything's getting more expensive. Unfortunately for Standard and Ultimate, to my knowledge, I don't think they have an annual subscription available for those yet. I checked before recording this video and still nothing, so that's unfortunate. If you want my honest opinion, if you plan to just buy games and then play them online, like say you plan to buy the annual Call of Duty, but you don't really care about playing much else, I'd recommend going for Game Pass Core, $11.99 per month, or I'd really recommend just paying the $75 for the entire year. And then, you know, if you want to play, I mean, honestly, I don't really see a reason for Game Pass Standard. If you're already going to go $15 a month, you might as well just bump up the extra $5 and go for Game Pass Ultimate. It's only an extra $60 per year, $60 over the entire course of a year. It's... yeah, I feel like for what you're getting out of that compared to Game Pass Standard, if you really want those benefits, I really feel like you ought to just go for Ultimate at that point, but that's just my opinion. There's a whole lot to break down here. So with Game Pass Core, you're basically just going to be getting online play. With the Game Pass Standard, you're going to be getting some Game Pass games, but not all of them. You won't be getting day one releases. You won't have access to cloud streaming, this, that, or the other. But then Game Pass Ultimate, it gives you the day one releases. You'll be getting the new Call of Duties, the new Elder Scrolls, the new everything like that, day one. You'll be getting, you know, you get access to cloud streaming, which is pretty cool because if you have Game Pass Ultimate on, say, an Xbox One or One X or whatever, you can then play Series X exclusive games on your Xbox One via cloud streaming. Granted, is it as good as playing it natively? Of course not. Streaming will never be as good as playing it natively, but still a very good and serviceable experience. And if you don't necessarily have the money to shell out for a Series X, especially with the recent price hikes, Microsoft, what the hell are you doing? You know, then that's still an option to play those new games, like say if you want to play Elder Scrolls 4 Remastered, but you know, you can't because you're still on an Xbox One. You know, that's always an option. And also with Game Pass Ultimate, that'll also give you access to Game Pass on PC. So instead of paying, you know, a separate thing of like, okay, $12 a month for Game Pass on console and then $12 for it on PC, you can just pay the $20 a month, and then it gives you access to everything on all platforms. And you can do game streaming like on your phone, on your PC, or whatever other devices you got. And as always, I do have to stress the fact that you do not need Game Pass of any kind to play free-to-play games such as Fortnite, Roblox, Warzone, etc. So if you and the boys just want to drop into Warzone or play Fortnite or this, that, or the other, you can do that completely for free and you don't got to worry about shelling out a dime. So that is pretty nice. One of the best features of the Xbox One is backwards compatibility. Now, this is not hardware level emulation or hardware level gameplay, you know, whatever you want to call it. This is software level emulation, but it was done in a way that is not only indistinguishable from the original games, but is actually better in some instances, in terms of at least like resolutions, frame rates, etc. if they get a game boost on the newer consoles. So it's kind of finicky though, because some games are backwards compatible, some aren't. So you kind of have to just look up like a wiki page, be like, all right, is this Xbox 360 game backwards compatible? Is it not? Is this original Xbox game backwards compatible? Is it not? I will say the original Xbox backwards compatibility list is a lot smaller than the 360's, but for the 360, there's still a number of games where it's like, all right, why didn't they make those backwards compatible yet? Hoping they will soon, especially now that they own Activision. Like, maybe I know it's a nightmare with licensing and such, because it's also like a movie and a property in general and whatnot, but like the Transformers games, I feel like would be pretty cool to get on there, or some of the Spider-Man games or something. Again, I know that's a nightmare because of licensing, but it's like, well, they technically own the rights to those games. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about like 60, 70, about 75 games in total. We're going to run through like 50, 60 some like Xbox One games. We're going to run through about 10 Xbox 360 games and then 5 original Xbox games. The reason that the 360 and original Xbox lists are so low are because I'm trying to save, you know, keep my what's the word? Keep the rabbit in the hat for when we do the Xbox 360 and original Xbox buying guides. So we're going to be mainly focusing on Xbox One and Xbox One exclusive games today. So We got about 10 plus exclusives here. We'll just run through these. So since we have a lot of games to go through, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm just going to kind of rattle them off, maybe tell you a little bit about them if I feel like it's necessary, and just keep running through them. Sunset Overdrive, which is a really cool blend of, what do I want to say, like Tony Hawk and third-person shooter and just, I don't know, like that punk aesthetic. I don't even know how to explain it, man. The game's crazy. Highly recommend it. I also apologize for not being able to show gameplay. Every time I put like gameplay trailers in my videos, I end up getting copyright striked by somebody, and it's a nightmare. Anyway, Rise Son of Rome, which is a really cool third-person action game, which was a launch title for the Xbox One, still an exclusive to the console where, you know, as you can guess from the title, it's set in Rome, and it's super gory, super fun, love that game. It's sort of like if 300 was a movie, but maybe a bit less graphic. Next up, I got Gears 4 and 5. For some reason, they changed the name from Gears of War to just Gears on the Xbox One, but those games are great. The Halo games, the Master Chief Collection, which is like the Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, Reach, 4. You're getting 6 games right there in the Master Chief Collection. Also worth mentioning that all of Microsoft's first-party games are on Game Pass, so if you just want to pay the $20 up front to get access to a bunch of those games, that's a great way to do it. But anyway, Master Chief Collection, Halo 5, Halo 6, aka Halo Infinite, is also available on Xbox One, even though it was technically geared towards the Xbox, Series S and X. On the original Xbox One, the game is locked to 30 FPS, but if you get a One X, you can raise that frame rate up to 60 FPS, and it's almost indistinguishable from the modern consoles outside of some graphical differences. Then we got the Forza Horizon games, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are open world racing games. And if you're sitting there thinking, wait, Forza, isn't that the race simi one? How would that work in an open world? Don't worry, Forza Horizon is much more arcadey. You're just kind of driving around vibing. Those games are great. Those games have also come to PS5 now, though, so maybe I should take this off the exclusivity list, because only 2, 3, and 4 are technically exclusive now, since 5 is on PS5, but, you know. Anyway, Forza Motorsport games, we got 5, 6, and 7, those released here on the Xbox One. Great games, race simi. ReCore is one that I feel is very underrated, and is a bit of a hidden gem on the system. So in the game, you play as this girl who is a nomad of sorts, lives out in the desert. She has her little pet-friendly robot, and basically you just go around scavenging stuff, fighting enemies and whatnot. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but it's a really good game. It gets a little challenging by the end. Not Dark Souls difficulty, but definitely makes you think, definitely makes you work for your win, and it's a great game. I highly recommend it. Next up, we got Quantum Break, which is almost like Xbox's version of a first-party Sony game. You know, just like really high budget, really cinematic, huge download size. That's the one thing that stuck out in my mind about the game. You need to clear up some space on your hard drive for that one. That game's massive. Next up, we got Halo Wars 1 and 2, which is sort of like a strategy RPG Halo game. You know, you'd be like commanding your squad around. It's kind of similar to, say, something like XCOM, but with more strategy in place, and you have to like manage your resources and like, you know, like different, what do you want to call it, like soldiers that you can call in and whatnot. Next up, we got State of Decay 1 and 2. I'd say go for 2 just because it's essentially State of Decay 1, but refined, it got more updates, etc. The servers are still online, so you can still play with your friends, so I'd recommend going for State of Decay 2. And then finally, Dead Rising 3, which is basically a game where you just kill a lot of shit with a lot of cool shit. Okay, excuse my language, but seriously, that's what it is. You kill like thousands of zombies, you can craft a bunch of crazy weapons. Dead Rising 3 is fantastic, and Dead Rising 4 is also available on the system, and I've always felt like Dead Rising... Oh, it's raining outside. Sorry if you guys can hear the rain. I just heard it. Yeah, it's starting to downpour. Hopefully it doesn't knock my power out. But anyway, yeah, Dead Rising 3. You can also go on to get Dead Rising 4. Like I said, a very underrated game in my opinion. People crapped on it when it came out, but, you know, that's what the internet does. It finds something to make its punching bag, does it for a week, and then moves on and forgets, and then eventually people come around and they're like, oh, wait, that game was actually pretty good. Humans are just too pessimistic, man. I can't stand it. But anyway, that's the exclusives list. So now we're going on to the third-party ones, and I think I just gotta say strap in here, all right? We're just gonna blaze through it. Star Wars Battlefront 2, Battlefield 1, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare / Modern Warfare Remastered, because if you get the Legacy Edition of Infinite Warfare, then you can get both of those. Far Cry Primal, which is one of my favorite Far Cry games. You can, like, just think of Far Cry, right? First-person action, first-person shooter, open-world game, etc. Except this is the primal ages, dog. You're gonna be like riding around on tigers, beating shit up with clubs, using your grappling hook to swing around. The game is so gnarly. Next up, we got Grand Theft Auto 5. You can't make a list like this without Grand Theft Auto 5. Minecraft, same thing. Red Dead Redemption 2, made by the same people that made Grand Theft Auto 5, but is genuinely one of the best and one of the most beautiful games that I've ever played. Literally to this day, I still hop on in the story mode and the online mode just to get on the horse and ride around. I don't do anything else in the game. Like, I literally just get on my horse, ride around, take in the sights and views, take some screenshots, take some videos, and that's it. Also occasionally hog tying people and kidnapping them and dragging them around, but that's a different thing. Next up, I'm going to recommend Crash Insane Trilogy, which is a remake of the first 3 Crash games from the PlayStation 1. But if you've already played those games before, or maybe you're just like, hey, I want something new, then lucky for you, Crash 4 It's About Time also came out during this generation, which is a... It's kind of funny because they literally ignored like a whole legacy of Crash games. Like after Crash 3, they were just like, oh, Crash to Insanity, Wrath of Cortex. No, none of that ever happened. They just went Crash 4 It's About Time, which... hurts me, man. Twinsanity is my favorite Crash game. Come on now. After that, I'm going to recommend Crash Team Racing, which is once again a remake of the fantastic PlayStation 1 racing game. Think Mario Kart, but if it was Crash Bandicoot instead. Then we got the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which, as you can probably expect, is a remake of the first 3 Spyro games of the PS1. We got a lot of those during this generation, but, you know, fantastic game. Then I'm going to recommend some of the Souls games. You know, you got Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Elden Ring, all fantastic games. After that, I'm going to recommend Psychonauts 2, which is a 3D platformer, a 3D puzzle platformer. It's a very cool concept where it's all about the inner mind. A lot of trippy stuff in the game, and this was a sequel that was long in the making, because the first game is actually on the original Xbox recommendations list later in the video, so if that doesn't tell you anything, it took a while for us to get this game. After that, I'm going to recommend Mortal Kombat 11, basically the ultimate fighting game when it comes to, you know, like Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, you know, between the amount of characters and DLC and just the fact that it's one of the most modern, you know, like fighting games at the moment that already had all the support that it's going to get. Mortal Kombat 1's support is still ongoing, which is why I'm just recommending 11 since it's already all done, you know, it got everything it's going to get. And then I'm going to recommend Injustice 2 because, you know, if you don't necessarily want all the gore of Mortal Kombat 11, then you can just, you know, go do it with DC superheroes instead, where it's a bit less gory, you know? Make Batman beat up Superman, but minus the decapitation. Next, I'm going to recommend Doom 2016, one of the best first-person shooters ever made, and if you like Doom 2016, then you can then go on to play Doom Eternal, which is another fantastic first-person shooter, and then if you ever decide to get a Series X or S or invest in Game Pass Ultimate to use cloud streaming, then you can play the new Doom game, Doom the Dark Ages, which is also amazing. After that, I'm going to recommend SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which is a remake of the fantastic PS2/original GameCube 3D platformer, and this game is absolutely gorgeous. It's very saturated, very colorful. The vibes are just unmatched. You know, it takes you back to those early 2000s days while bringing it up to like the modern generation, giving it a fresh coat of paint, and it looks amazing. Next, I'm going to recommend Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which is one of the most recent Lego games, not the most recent, but one of the most recent, and it tried a new formula for the Lego series. It's much different from Lego games of the past, so if you play Lego games before and you're looking for something a bit different but still Lego-y, highly recommend Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, as it will take you through all of these Star Wars movies, and it's just a very cute and fun adventure as you'd expect from a Lego game. After that, I'm going to recommend Resident Evil 4, because that is my favorite game of all time, but if you've already played Resident Evil 4 dozens of times and are looking for something new, then I'd recommend Resident Evil 7 or Village. Both fantastic games, definitely a bit different from something like, say, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 7 is a bit less on the action and is a first-person game and is more reliant on jump scares and just the sheer horror and terror. Think more like Outlast, but with a bit more action. And then Resident Evil 8, aka Village, is a lot more like Resident Evil 4, except it's still in first person. And if I'm going to be honest, that's the best way to explain Village. It's literally, okay, what if Resident Evil 4 was in first person? Like, so much of the game aligns with Resident Evil 4. It's not like a beat-for-beat remake. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just there's a lot of beats are kind of similar. After that, I'm going to recommend The Witcher 3, just one of the best games ever made, just putting it simply as it is. After that, I'm going to recommend Monster Hunter World, one of the best Monster Hunter games. That game is infinitely replayable. That game will keep you busy for a very long time, especially if you get the expansions like Iceborne and such. After that, I'm going to recommend Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, an amazing game. Not going to spoil anything, but the ending sequence I didn't see coming, so, you know, that's one of those games where even up to its final moments, it keeps you on your toes. Really cool game. And then I'm going to recommend Cuphead, which is a bit more challenging. It's a 2D platformer with the art style of classic Disney, you know what I mean? Like, you ever seen that animation of like Mickey Mouse on the train doing like the woo woo woo? What's the name of it again? It's like something Willy, I think. Steamboat Willie, that's what it is. Yeah, it kind of has that animation style. I've always loved that animation style. I'm just kind of nostalgic for it because I grew up watching those. But yeah, that game's really cool, but again, it is kind of challenging. After that, I'm going to recommend Final Fantasy 15, which is a pretty underrated entry in the series, in my opinion. You play as Prince Noctis and his 3 friends, Gladios, Prompto, and Ignis. That game will last you for a while, and there's some DLCs for it too, and it is genuinely one of my favorite games of all time. It is such an amazing game. The soundtrack to the game is amazing. The cutscenes make me cry every time. The ending is beautiful. If you get Final Fantasy 15, really you can't go wrong with either version, whether you get the original or the Royal Edition. The Royal Edition is slightly extended, so if you want to get like the full, complete experience, you can get Royal Edition, but I played the vanilla version, and honestly, I don't really have a specific preference either way. I think the vanilla version is fantastic as it is, but if you want more content, again, the Royal Edition does exist. After that, Metal Gear Solid 5. It's an open world Metal Gear Solid game, and if you haven't played any of the Metal Gear games before, I see, I'd always recommend just playing all of them just because they're all fantastic, but like, even though some things may kind of go over your head in the story, to say the least, you can still play it and have a good time, so, you know, I just wanted to throw it on there. It is also worth noting that all of the original Metal Gear Solid games, barring Metal Gear Solid 4, are available on Xbox One now via the remaster collection that came out a little while ago, so if you want to play the originals first, you can do that. After that, I'm going to recommend Dead Cells, which is an awesome roguelite where basically, you know, it's like a 2D Metroidvania. You're going to be going through these procedurally generated levels, just trying to get to the end, because basically it's broken up into levels, right? You got to go through the first level, get some gear, go through the second level, gets a little bit harder, get some more gear, and it just slowly ramps up and ramps up until you get to the final bits of the game. But the twist is that on your first run, you're not going to be powerful enough to make it to the end of the game, probably. Unless you're a god tier gamer, then maybe you can. But you're probably going to be replaying the game multiple times, and each time you'll be getting slowly stronger and stronger and stronger until eventually you're ready to take on the final boss. Now, that may sound monotonous or repetitive, but if that's how it sounds to you, then that just means that you've never played a roguelite before, because if you've played a roguelite before, then you would know that that's par for the course, and is actually part of what makes the game so addicting and fun. It's just the thrill of like, okay, is this going to be the run or not? So I'd highly recommend it, especially if you haven't played a roguelite before. I feel like this is a great one to dive in with, because there's a lot of flexibility in the builds and the way that you play the game. After that, I'm going to recommend Celeste, which is an indie darling. It genuinely made me cry a couple times just because I played it at a time where I really needed it. I was really struggling just with my mental health and such, and a lot of the conversations that they have in the game is just the whole theme about, you know, just like mental health struggles in general in the game and kind of overcoming it, climbing the mountain per se. It's such a beautiful game. It genuinely makes me want to tear up just thinking about it. It's such a good game. Highly recommend. After that, I'm going to recommend Dying Light, which is essentially like, hey, what if Dead Island took place in a city, but you were like parkouring around rooftops and whatnot? It's basically what it is. First-person action game, going to be crafting weapons, getting guns, all that, parkouring around the city, shooting zombies. It's fantastic, and if you like that game, you can go on to play Dying Light 2, which is also available on Xbox One. Next up, I'm going to recommend Sleeping Dogs, which is a badass GTA-type game where, you know, it's open world, but there's a huge emphasis on the combat, and it's very similar to, say, something like Batman Arkham. You're going to be doing crazy combos, dodging around, throwing people into meat grinders. It's insane. Love that game. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Watch Dogs 2, which is another open world game, and it's based around, you know, just hacking people and stuff, right? You got this phone, you can go around hacking people and whatnot, hack traffic lights, hack people's cars, make cars drive into other cars, just do all this fun stuff. Watch Dogs 1 is also available, but I just figured I'd recommend Watch Dogs 2, since that's basically Watch Dogs 1, but with a lighter tone, and just kind of, you know, it's its own thing. It's a newer game. You just go with that one. Though I will say I would recommend playing Watch Dogs 1 if you get the chance, because I still, like, Watch Dogs 1 is still my favorite Watch Dogs game, just because of how dark and gritty the story is. I really gravitate towards dark and gritty stories. I just love stuff like that, because I'm kind of demented. Let's just put it as it is. Anyway, the next game I'm going to recommend to completely juxtapose that dark side of me is Bugsnax, which is also one of my favorite games of all time. And you might be like, wait, what? Well, actually, no, that's a lie, because Bugsnax, no, actually, I can't say that because that would be a spoiler. But if you play Bugsnax, you know exactly why this game is actually kind of dark and demented. So maybe I really am just a demented human being. Anyway, Bugsnax is a cutesy game where you make friends with a bunch of these cute people on the island. You go around. It's sort of like Pokemon Snap, where you're just like, you know, taking pictures of stuff and living your life and having a good time. And yeah, there's totally nothing else going on in the meantime. Not gonna spoil anything. Anyway, Assassin's Creed Origins is my next recommendation. It was the first Assassin's Creed game to take the series into this new RPG-type direction. It's a very good game. It takes place in ancient Egypt. There's definitely more of an emphasis on action in this game compared to the past Assassin's Creed games, right? Like, you're not going to be stealthing around as much, or, you know, dropping from the rooftops with your blades or anything like that. But, you know, it's still very much Assassin's Creed, even if it is a little bit different, and even if it does have a bit more of an emphasis on the RPG mechanics. Fantastic game. It's also very beautiful. Let me just say that. Graphically speaking, oh my goodness, it looks so good. Next up, I'm going to recommend Danganronpa, which is a visual novel, and I really don't know how much I can say about this game without really spoiling it. There is 3 games. Kind of. I mean, it kind of depends on how you look at it. There's like 3 main games and then 3 like spin-off titles. So there's technically 6 in total. But if you just want like the core Danganronpa experience, it is, you know, 3 like main titles. The most I can say about the game is that it's a murder mystery. That's really all I can say about it without really spoiling anything. It's pretty crazy, and there is also other ways to experience the story, right? There's like different anime and manga and such out there as well if you want to experience the game or if you want to experience the story otherwise. Like, say you play the games, you're like, oh, I really need more. There's other ways to get your fix too. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Superliminal, which is a pretty trippy but really cool puzzle game that really messes with your depth perception. Really cool game. Next up, I'm gonna recommend Overcooked, which is basically just like Cooking Mama in 3D, but you're having an anxiety attack the whole time. It's a great time. Next, I'll recommend It Takes Two, which unfortunately does require a friend. I don't even know what that word means. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a friend. You could also do it with like a family member. Still blanking on that one means. Or, you know, if you have like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Yeah, I don't even think I don't even think I've heard of that word before. Anyway, you can only play this game co-op. You can't play it single player unless you plug in 2 controllers and try playing it at, you know, playing by yourself at the same time, which honestly I'm thinking about trying to do sometimes just because I really want to play like these games, but I haven't been able to because I don't like I don't have anybody to play with. So I'm thinking I'm gonna hook up like 2 controllers, right? And then I'll just like do one of these things where I'm just like controlling both at the same time. I'll have to see if that actually works. But yeah, I can't tell you too much about them because I haven't played them. I've like watched some playthroughs and whatnot, and it looks cool. I just haven't gotten to experience it for myself, so that's kind of sad. And finally, I'm gonna recommend Skyrim, even though it's technically like a remaster of the original Skyrim. I mean, it's Skyrim, dog. If we're talking about a console, we gotta have Skyrim on it, right? You haven't bought Skyrim for real until you bought it 6 times. Next up, we're gonna recommend some Xbox 360 games. So, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Gears of War, Alan Wake, Army of Two, Banjo-Kazooie, Battlefield Bad Company 2, Bayonetta, Grand Theft Auto 4, play that damn game, bro. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and Final Fantasy 13. 10 fantastic Xbox 360 games. And now we're going to recommend some original Xbox games. Time Splitters 2 and Future Perfect, just kind of bundle those into one. Though I will say Time Splitters 2 is my all-time favorite. Love that game so much, man. Black, first-person shooter, fantastic, freaking mind-blowing for the time that it came out. Conquer Live and Reloaded, a remake of an N64 game, which is... it's an insane game. That's all I can say about it, bro. That game is crazy. You play it thinking, oh, this is gonna be a cute 3D platformer, and then you get into the game, and it's just, it's wild. Next up, I'll recommend Psychonauts, which, again, was the first Psychonauts game that we ended up having to wait decades before we got a sequel to, with Psychonauts 2. So glad that we fired. No, that's a lie. It was not decades. It was like almost 2 decades, but still, it was a long wait. And then finally, I recommend Blinx the Time Sweeper, which is a very underrated and fantastic 3D platformer on the original Xbox that allows you to control time in some really cool ways to interact with the levels and solve certain puzzles. So, you know, it's a really cool game and I highly recommend it. There's also a sequel, Blinx 2, so if you want more Blinx after playing Blinx 1, then there's Blinx 2. That, most people, like, you know, it's getting to that point now where the original Xbox is getting a bit more popular and retro groups, so more people are starting to know about the first Blinx game, but even less people know about Blinx 2, which, you know, that I really wish that we could see Blinx come back in some way just because the concept was so cool, but we'll see. Anyway, I feel like that wraps it up for the Xbox One buying guide. I always put a huge emphasis on the games just because I want you guys to have as many options as possible, and especially, you know, like, I think the kind of people that are going to be watching this video aren't people that are super in the know about gaming stuff, right? Like, maybe there's some people that just watch it out of curiosity. Like, for me, for example, I watch buying guides sometimes just because I find them entertaining, but not because I necessarily need the knowledge, because I'm like a wellspring of video game knowledge up here, man. There's, like, very little that I don't know. But I like to include even some of the obvious examples like Grand Theft Auto 5 or Minecraft, for example, just in case there's anybody out there that's like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm just buying my grandkid this Xbox One for Christmas, let me just listen to this dude yap about some games and, you know, just so I can get some ideas. So I try to provide many examples of different things, right? Whether that be, you know, puzzle games like Superliminal or visual novels like Danganronpa, open world games, etc. Just try to give you guys as much variety as possible. So hopefully you guys found this buying guide either helpful or entertaining in some way, and otherwise, yeah, we'll see you guys in the next buying guide, which I already think we're going to go to a different generation. I'm thinking we'll go about 2 generations back for the next one, so not gonna spoil it, but if you know me, you can probably already know which console I'm talking about, because it's literally my favorite console of all time. So yeah, you can probably already guess what the next buying guide's gonna be, but I'll see you guys there for that. But anyways, always massive shout out, thank you to all the patrons, and to remember, say get all new in the low ball tier, remember shout out in the mobile tier, asking any time any bitch on D2 round, some cheese, thank you guys so much, guys, Little Legends, I love you. Have an amazing day, so beautiful, I love you all. Peace.